they're willing to take the Azir Orianna trade. Are they going to continue to hit the ban phase in this first phase? Now that BLG has second pick this time around, will things change at all in that department? Again, we're seeing the Orianna taken away as JDG opting for that first pick. And it's going to be a lot of the similar bans so far, but this is going to be the real test. Are they going to force BLG to show their hand and B1 Azir?
I think that Vi, Pantheon, Azir all being up, kind of curious. Also, that early Bard ban, that's a lot of respect being paid towards On. Wondering if we see a first rotation support maybe for JDG with that Bard taken away in mind. That's something that I'm going to keep tabs on as we go throughout. Pantheon taken away. They're making BLG choose. Are you going to let Azir up, let Vi through, or are you going to let both through? And maybe have that be the handshake early on.
And then if you decide to go that way, then okay. So it's going to be the Vi ban. You'd imagine Azir is picked here, although maybe they want to see if Knight's willing to pick it up. I know this is a conversation that we continue to have, but when you look at the numbers, it is kind of surprising to see where that specifically stands in terms of his win rate on that champion versus the rest of the champions that he's played in the mid lane. And that's exactly what JDG are going to do, locking in this Ashe first.
They're going to make him play it, Grapes. They're really throwing down the gauntlet saying, Knight, we know that you don't love playing the Azir. They're going to first pick the Ashe. The Seraphine gets denied from the combo, which I think is worth noting. That's quite interesting now, because they're going to have to find a different pairing with Ashe. And we haven't seen Ashe paired a lot outside of Seraphine. I will also say that you could play Seraphine into Azir. This was like a very old matchup that we used to see. And Knight, while he may not be the best Azir player himself, he has pulled out some tech into Azir like the Ziggs that he really likes to play and that I really like seeing Knight on. So I'm wondering, because when Seraphine was released, or there was some mid-Seraphine going on, we did see some Seraphine into Azir, because between the Rywise, the Encore, and the Double E, you can actually kind of space Azir, keep him out of fights, or really dissuade him from torpedoing in. But, man, if Lulu's locked in, that's even more reason to pick Azir, because the Polymorph becoming the Whimsy, the attack speed steroid, of course, Ashe can use that. Azir can use that too. So I'm expecting to see the Emperor of Shurima come in either way here.
Man, it's such an interesting mind game that BLG are now suddenly playing. Now they have the Seraphine locked in, and I love the call out of the Ziggs. Undefeated on it in his career is Knight, 8-0. So he
Ziggs would rain terror on Ashe Lulu too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're actually not going to pick it. They're going to opt out of it, knowing that that counter is in their back pocket. You'd think that maybe they have to push it towards later on in this series at this point.
That is very interesting. We've completely skipped over to the Fury, by the way, with all this going on, as that has been picked up for Shun. The ability to go invulnerable. Going to help out against the gold cards, as HongQ sticking with that identity for JDG of being able to play the map on a mid. So, one combo I do like so far from JDG, the ability to Whimsy TF with the gold card, the RFC, actually gives you a lot of threat throughout the setups. And I'm expecting them to find a jungler and a top laner that they can play off of this with. Also expecting mid bans to be thrown out to try and protect HongQ on this TF. Meanwhile, for BLG, Nefiri showing, of course, no jungler showing for JDG. Option to throw out a couple bans to protect your Nefiri, but also potential blind top coming out here. Gwen being banned, wondering if we might have a Bin Kasance be locked in. Also, probably should note that Jax, I find that his value goes up a bit against TF, but Jax really struggles in games against stuff like Ashe Lulu, so not expecting to see a Bin Jax here.
Might even be something that Xiaoxu wants to pick up instead, because this champion, he plays well, and when you look at what the composition of JDG needs to do with the top jungle, it's just to do damage, right? You have HongQ on the TF, Gala, Ashe, not necessarily a primary damage threat, and JunJia typically goes more the utility route in terms of the champions that he plays. So I'm expecting a carry here for Xiaoxu, which is why the Gwen was a very smart choice.
I like the Ahri ban a lot. The ability to hunt Ashe Lulu, very real. I think any other bans that kind of help Ashe Lulu in that would be worth hitting. I still think that you could ban Ziggs. Ziggs in the TF is a very good lane matchup, and again, Ziggs into Ashe Lulu too. I could really see a world where Ziggs is actually a very dominant pick here. Other option, I think Cassante is definitely being thought about here by BLG, so maybe taking that out of the pool. Going to be interesting. But Annie, I think Annie has a similar impact as Ari would have as well. And I mean, just Tibbers being dropped on Ash Lulu, very scary.
A lot of bursts potentially off the table now.
Do you blitzcrank or like get really weird here?
That's not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea at all. Just being able to get onto one of these immobile backline threats. It's going to be a Scion so far for Bin. Going to be locked in blind, and that means
they didn't ban Trundle?
Final pick for the rest of this.
Okay, BLG. If we're doing, why don't we ban Trundle if we're doing this?
It's a good point.
It's, you give Trundle a pretty good game now. Yeah, he has an Enchantress behind him. Gold card to play off of. I don't think it's exactly a JDG pick. JunJia wants to play a little bit faster than what Trundle can offer, but Trundle gets real value now. Going into something like Scion, being able to hit Subjugate, or even the Pillar for MF too, canceling that bullet time could be crucial. As JunJia, that's not Trundle. And that would maybe be a jungle Olaf.
Could it be a top Olaf even if the Jax is going to the jungle?
Whoa.
There's a lot of different things being opened up here by JDG. They do go for the Jax, but they have two flexible champions here on the top side. Both beefy boys that do a lot of damage, but where exactly on the Rift are they going to go?
Mel picked up for Knight in the mid lane.
We're getting weird.
I mean, Mel doesn't have a ton to send back this game either. I don't love what BLG rounded their draft out with. I think that the Mel feeds into what the MF Seraphine wants to do with the Wombo and with the Scion, but I think the ability for Olaf with an Ash Lulu in his back pocket and a gold card, I mean, this could be a JunJia game. Because the Lulu empowering your jungler, especially in Olaf, I mean, Olaf really takes advantage of this. Kind of curious to see if he opts for Flash or Ghost this game. I think it's going to be a Flash, just given that we're in Pro. But, yeah, I don't know if... I don't think Scion Mel is how I would have rounded this comp out for BLG. I think they could have been a lot more creative with it, and they are opening themselves up to some timers that I think can be found by JDG between the TF, the Ash, and what they can hopefully create on the top side, where Jax Olaf can really run over what JD Gaming has, especially if Lulu's there to help.
A lot of takeaways here for JD Game, for BLG, I should say. I feel like that's kind of what happened. They were trying to find individual answers to specific picks, right? Pick the Seraphine against the Ash, pick the Mel to have a counter into the Twisted Fate, but overall, I think that JDG's composition is just a lot more fluid, a lot stronger as a whole. You have this Enchanter Lulu alongside two backline divers, bruisers that are going to be able to do a ton, alongside this Ash and TF that'll just have a really good time. I think overall in this game, like what JDG have to offer is they have the ability to send us to match point.
Well, great, so we can do so. Game 2.
Game 3.
Game 2 going to be secure. Yeah, game 2 will be secured now.
Second game of
the
series for each team.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for.
One team is going to be, have a 2 in the win column.
Yeah.
Banger. That's definitely the best thing I could have said as a broadcaster right there.
Here we go. Getting started off here. Top starts for both junglers. They're going to be going down towards a rather aggressive and volatile bot lane. When you got 4 ranged champions, it's always the poke battle. Who can get priority in the lane first? This time, it's actually Viper and On. Not been the case for the majority of this series, but playing Seraphine to get a little bit of that extra push.
Yeah, Seraphine much better against in the early main phase against the Lulu. And paired up with that MF too. I mean, the MFE is technically a slow. It's not going to be as easy to synergize with the Ashe Seraphine pairing, but you can get a similar or the same interaction there between MFE and Seraphine's E to find the root on the single cast, not the double cast, which is a big plus for the power budget of Seraphine. So, see if Viper's MF can move to 5-0 on the split, as it is 4-0 so far. And I expect this bot lane to be pretty much fully in BLG's favor here. For the, I mean, it's gonna be for a while. I think Seraphine MF's gonna run the Rift here for a bit. So we'll see if those dragons can go over to BLG early. As oh boy.
So HongQ has to flash away from that solar snare of Knight. The matchup that he picked into the Twisted Fate. Just thought about it. You could probably reflect that gold card that gets thrown your way. So really not much threat of really getting targeted in either isolation, in a side lane, kind of throughout this game. And so far it's working for Knight.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty nice start here, as JunJia doesn't look like he can fight Shun. So he
has that Conqueror
hold
proc,
on.
but again, JunJia
Vampire's here,
gonna get
here.
stronger as the health is lower. Vampire's here,
Great
pops the
flash.
heal, pops the shield. JunJia nearly goes down, but it will be Shun to pick up first blood for Bilibili Gaming. They're gonna get a second on the Vampire as well. Knight gets the final kill credit, and BLG are off and running in game 3.
There was a window where Vampire was there before on. I thought that JunJia almost had it, but not enough damage to find the kill before On was able to join with the Seraphine, and that's really what changed things in favor of BLG. As, man, that is a really rough start. I mean, a risk from JunJia. We did talk about how the bot lane was losing for JDG, and you can see the Seraphine MF getting shoved. Lulu was who moved first. And JunJia, I mean, it's not like he doesn't hit everything. It's just that, oh man, the Glitter Lance missed. The flashes will commit, and the heal just in range. The double W comes in. Shun lives, and 2 kills go over to BLG to kick off this game. What a hot start for them.
It's another game where BLG is off to an early lead. We'll see if that can convert into more. Because again, they have a lot of good scaling in their team. It's just how exactly does it all work together in a general team composition. I think in general, a lot of poke available when you have the Seraphine and the Mel. You also have decent front to back with the Scion and the Misfortune. How exactly they want to use this composition is still left to be determined.
I definitely expect to see some wombos from BLG, that's for sure. The Scion setup with Mel, MF, Seraphine, I think all of them can kind of play off each other in terms of setting up these wombos. And the other story of this, it has been Knight versus HongQ. You can see that wave in a tough spot for HongQ. I think that, yeah, some of these red cards have been used on the wave. Guaranteed push. Knight's been keeping this on his side of the map, and those wild cards were reflected, and that cannon creep was denied. Now the first dragon looked to be secured by BLG. Did say that the bot lane matchup should be early priority for them. Not very surprised to see this go to the side of BLG given what's drafted in the script of the game. Kind of expect to see a 530 Drake in their hands, so we'll execute by BLG to make sure this goes in their favor.
Looks like this Mel pick was pretty telegraphed in terms of Knight knew that this was going to happen at some point, and he had the pick prepared. That's the benefit of being able to play less games throughout a playoff bracket. JDG forced to show a little bit more throughout their fearless drafts. HongQ has played Twisted Fate in both playoff series so far. And so Knight knew that this was going to be on the table, had an answer for it, and so far it's working well here for this BLG mid lane.
Yeah, and at least in some of the setup for this matchup, like we were talking about a potential Zig still coming in as something to really punish the Ashe Lulu. We saw Ahri and Annie banned, which I think were good bans by JDG as picks that can really attack this bot lane. I think Mel kind of uniquely interacts with this game, just denying the gold cards and maybe some of the mid-jungle ganks that you look for when you have a TF on your team to attack his own lane with the free gank setup he gets. That's denied, but also kind of a low-range comp.
Ooh,
and oh, that's a root.
That's going to be it on to HongQ. No flash still on that Twisted Fate, and Shun finds a great opportunity to get kill number 3.
I mean, MAzel is so valuable against, I think, every member, like even Olaf, and you can force Ragnarok with it if it's casted in the right scenario. Everyone's going to be forced to play through this. BLG definitely have a comp identity where I think this mid to bot side really outrange their opponents. And this could be tough for JDG if they don't pick the right moments or the right timers to break this, which is something that we saw them struggle with in the last game on the Nocturne. One of the factors that went in the BLG winning that one.
Things are getting out of hand relatively quickly. JDG need to find some stability at any area of the map. It looks like right now the closest thing they have to that is in the top lane, where Xiaoxu picks up a 10 CS lead over Bin, but Bin's playing Sion. He's okay with that at this point. Xiaoxu gonna need to do a little bit more to make sure JDG are feeling comfortable at this point in the game.
Yeah, so what I would love to see BLG do here, Viper is ahead. He's sitting on a BF sword with MF. We have started to see, I know that quests have really killed swaps and rotations. If you guys at home were watching maybe some of the LCK playoff games, we started to see some teams starting to shift up some lane assignments, return to some of what worked in old League of Legends and applying it to new League of Legends, as delaying those quests can sometimes be, sometimes it's warranted to make sure that you're securing a neutral objective that might be important. I'm kind of curious to see if they move Viper anywhere, because that is the real strength of MF, right? Using the strut to get out of lane and to ensure that you're rotating first to a play. Kind of curious to see if they move that BF sword MF anywhere, because Viper is very, very strong on the map right now and is pushing around that Ashe Lulu, as if left alone, Gala Vampire are going to continue to lose this war of attrition.
Looks like for now that is not the goal, as ultimate is used by Xiaoxu on the top side. The grubs are available. Neither jungler just feels particularly interested in going for it at this point. You can see they're both down towards the bottom lane. Relatively even in terms of their clear. We see Xun now going back, picking up that Eclipse, and maybe this is his opportunity to go up with Viper, potentially on a reset rather soon.
I mean, that's just the grubs going down. If Eclipse Nefiri shows, I don't think that JunJia can fight this at all. It isn't close enough on a base to try and get involved here, so if anything, expecting to see him look for Wraps.
Ultimate used here by Bin perfectly alongside the ulti forward from Xun. That was just very greedy from Xiaoxu, and now JDG are going to try to respond here in the mid lane. Knight does have his flash burn, but it comes at the cost of the Ragnarok and most likely the grubs going the way of BLG.
It was a pretty disrespectful look from Xiaoxu, just because I say this because his jungler's bot, no one on his team can move, but also I think that if his jungler's bot, there's the assumption that the Fury is clearing top to bot. JunJia actually took away the Raptors of Xun, so he was a camp short on that last full clear, and that kind of makes sense if you have JunJia on Gromp, that Xun could be elsewhere. So I feel like that was well played by Bin and Xun to get the kill top, but also Xiaoxu kind of played into it on a timer where it wasn't necessary, or he should be thinking about playing around that play coming in. Because HongQ can't help out. He's down pretty bad in this mid lane matchup, and well, the last look from JunJia was also trying to open up HongQ to make sure that he can move for the next play. But that Nefiri being strong early means that Xun picks up 3 grubs for himself. We're going to ignore that smite because it was uncontested grapes.
Got my eyes on. There's another one at the dragon, too. Just the guy loves
I know.
I think he thinks that the smite does 901, 1401 damage instead of 1400. Maybe he read the patch notes wrong. I don't know.
It's old League of Legends still, where every level gives you more, right?
Well, yeah, but he's still miscounting by at least one.
Yeah.
We'll see if it ends up impacting this game, as it seems like this composition for JDG, not one to do particularly well at this point when you're down 3,000 gold, but they're gonna try to fight anyway. Around the second dragon, JunJia starting it up.
One nice interaction I see in this this matchup for JunJia. That axe just killed all the pups, which out of context sounds pretty rough, but in context, that's definitely a perk for JunJia. As that does give the Fury some bonus strength, but the strength in the Fury and the bot lane pick for BLG going to make sneaking this dragon away for JDG, I think, very hard. The fact that they're even posturing around this, I'm a bit surprised by.
JunJia just kind of doesn't have much to do. I mean, he can hit his Gromp, I guess, but maybe better to just allow Gala and Vampire to get that wave underneath his tower. We now see HongQ throwing a gold card at Xun, who goes untargetable to make sure it doesn't connect. Another nice interaction in response to the Twisted Fate. So JunJia and JDG now going to start this dragon up. Ron has eyes on it. Destiny has been popped just to make sure that JDG know exactly where the opposition is. But Xun now going to jump over the wall. potentially creating another 50-50. Encore going to be matched, but Gala cleanses it. Going to be the dragon secured by a JDG. In goes the rest of the fight, and JunJia starting to pop off with a wild growth. Gets one before eventually dropping. Bullet time coming out from Viper at 1 HP. Will be enough to take Gala down, and Knight shuts down HongQ on the backside as well. JunJia and JDG get themselves the dragon, but it costs them 3 of their players.
Honestly, that was a little bit of a closer look than I thought, just given Viper got out with 1 HP, dropped a great bullet time to turn that fight in favor of BLG. Dragon was secured by JDG as they deny the stack, but at what cost? As top lane continues to go to the likes of Bin, and BLG being the stronger team, went out heavily on the fight as well.
So, JunJia, again, having the better smite key in this series, but in this game might not matter.
Got the advantage with the true damage on the axe as he combos nicely here. And again, we can see some of the logic for JDG in this draft, in this fight. Vampire on the Lulu, buffing up this Olaf in the front line, making sure that he can swing those axes. But man, Viper getting out at that HP. You could see Gala was setting up the flash over the wall and finish him off, but the bullet time being cast immediately by Viper takes that option away from Gala, who would have melted under the rain of bullets. Not able to get on the Viper. He turns around the fight, and more gold goes into BLG's pockets.
So the gold lead, definitely not your typical LPL gold graph. It's a little bit more of a straight line this time for Bilibili. They're at 4,500, about the 14-minute mark. This is a very, very good result for them. They have been on a roll after dropping that first game. Again, we mentioned game number 1 almost felt like it should have been a BLG win until they made a couple of macro mistakes. And so when you take a look at it, it has been them so far playing the better series overall.
Yeah, again, I do think that macro-wise, JDG, like, they're signing up for a tough fight there. They did buy themselves 5 minutes, and JDG do scale this game. This is a Roa TF. This is an Ardent Lulu. I really feel like JDG are playing for this game to go late and to try and win off that. JunJia with the Hexploit start for the jungle Olaf is a bit interesting to me. I think Sundered Sky gives you more effective HP, but he's going to make sure that he has Ragnarok up, and that when he Ragnaroks, he's going to be strong in that window. Speaking of which, Knight going to be the focus here.
Window could be opened here, but Knight just clears the entire of the wave. They're going to go for it anyway because I guess they have to. Reflect going to be used perfectly, and in goes the Golden Eclipse to make it a 1-for-1. HongQ stood for a little bit too long underneath the turret. Nearly would have gone down with one more turret shot, but Knight's able to make it a 1-for-1 for now, but Shun jumps forward to make it an advantageous fight for BLG.
Yeah, I mean, Mel can delete the wave. JDG decide to go for the play anyway, and yeah, they get the shutdown, but at what cost? Now Gala.
Oh, Gala now starting to be pretty strong now with the Rangers' focus. The Encore forced to come out to delay any further auto attacks from raining in onto BLG Viper. So not anything traded back there. JDG's, they're still hunting. They just haven't necessarily been super successful yet.
They have gotten a couple shutdowns. I mean, getting the shutdown on the Mel there again, like when you're behind, you're forced to hunt for these bounties. Objective bounties are up for JDG. The gold lead hasn't grown, which is good. But still, if you look at the middle of your screen, there's a lot of blue arrows in favor of BLG, and rightfully so. And that's not looking to change anytime soon. Again, I think JDG really looking to fight once TF is at 2 or 3 items. Just
or now.
Mel is now, but on. Great McHale's.
What a cleanse from On. The McHale's perfectly timed to make sure he does not lose any mobility on his way underneath his own turret. JDG feel like they can't waste this opportunity, so they're starting up the Rift Herald, but BLG certainly want to fight this. Root lands on it too. On able to do a ton to try and stall out JD Gaming. So teleport comes in from Bin, and the Rift Herald will now be started up by BLG.
Again, look to see who Vampire is empowering. I think giving Whimsy to HongQ makes a lot of sense for me. Just speeding up that gold card coming in.
Been tickled at the most by the entirety of the damage of HongQ. In goes JunJia with the Ragnarok, doing a ton of damage, but will not drop just yet. Able to get away with the Blast Cone is on, and Shun takes him down. Xiaoxu with the Counter-Strike able to escape, but 2 more go the way of BLG.
I just feel like JDG are signing up for losing fights, and I'm a bit curious they're going for it now, because I kind of like the scaling of JDG in this game. Like, you have a Lulu. I can see empowering this Olaf, how Olaf can really function in the draft, and where damage could run out for BLG later on, but we're running into the meat grinder right now where BLG is strong, and you called out the JunJia's chunked instead of giving away Rift Herald. They're going to go in, take the fight, and lose more. Vampire gets one shot. He stepped up, trying to empower JunJia. Oh. He falls, and JunJia, not enough gas in the tank. Credit to On, who again played the setup of that fight well. Got them off Herald to begin with. Played the back half of that fight really well, too. Hit the empowered blast cone that doesn't impact the Ragnarok Olaf to create space for himself, not the Olaf. Really well played by On throughout that sequence.
So JDG very quickly running out of options. Even if things look like they're about to go well, they have not here in game number 3, as the gold lead for BLG has now expanded to 6.4k. And they're looking to grow that now towards the bot lane tier 1. There's 3 members of JDG here to try to defend, but 4 is bigger than 3, and that's how many BLG send to take this one.
I mean, coming into the day, we really felt like, you know, BLG, they were the favorites coming in, but JDG had a hard road. Felt like that could have maybe been the buff as On.
Another great MAzel, but this time it's not going to matter. JunJia finally getting onto the board. Wild growth on top of him as he's found Knight in melee range. That's going to be a shutdown. And JunJia with a double kill, able to get JDG back in the winner's circle for now. Bin goes forward with that unstoppable onslaught, but unable to find a knockup. JunJia no longer has the Ragnarok, but still has some damage, and Gala's been untouched with the Ranger's focus. Bullet time is flashed away from, as everybody from JDG will go in, take Bin down. He flashes away at 100 HP. The red buff not going to do it either, but a big win for JDG to get them back into the game.
And man, just as I was setting up BLG for taking over JDG, the one thing they got in that last fight, yes, we were questioning why they took it. It was a loss. We were crediting how well On played his way out of that one, but On used his tools around the Rift Herald. It was a beautiful MAzel from him this time around, but that was the only tool he had to escape as JDG shut the clamps down onto On. And in hindsight, given that the Seraphine was missing sums, JunJia ripping this play as quickly as he did was a fantastic trigger pull. Vampires flash forward as well to connect with a knockup on the Knight. JunJia got so much gold in this sequence, and Olaf with gold and a Lulu in his back pocket. That can really help cut into the gold differential as JDG picked up 3.5, 4k gold throughout this sequence, Graves. Not to mention a dragon as well, so the game completely shifts back into where, yes, BLG still have a lead, but JDG's comp scales really nicely. And that gold just went onto the Olaf that will be Lulu empowered. So I am a lot more concerned for BLG now than I was a couple minutes ago before that last dragon fight.
By the way, you see Xiaoxu on that Jax, 0 damage. He was taking top tower that whole time. So it was 4v5 once Bin arrived to the fight, and JDG still end up prevailing. They get their second dragon of the game. They are now only down 3,000. That's a lot better than it was just a couple minutes ago.
And, you know, Grapes, in game 1, you said about Vampire's karma. It's like, you know, we haven't really mentioned this pick all game, which means he's probably doing well, doing his job. We're seeing the Lulu be a little bit more impactful, but I think that's a big note in terms of the emergence of Enchantresses that we have seen, that we have had. Sometimes if you're invisible, it does mean that you're doing your job, getting those shields, getting those heals down. And we have to look out to see if either Enchantress is picked. They're big linchpins for each team's composition. As Herald drop, BLG will take the mid inner turret for themselves.
We're talking about great 80 carries, great mid laners, target selection, a big focus there. That's the case for Enchantresses here as well. Lulu and Vampire, you know, using his tools onto JunJia early, and then at the back end of the fight empowering Gala to do a lot of damage on the back end of things, and that is exactly what a good support is able to do, even on a champion that is deemed not as impactful at times in terms of the big eye-opening plays that you see across the Rift. So Vampire so far having a good performance so far in this game. Still more work to be done as BLG are still ahead.
That and also On gonna have to be a little bit more careful moving forward. Our observers pointing out a ward behind as Ragnarok will be forced, but I don't think they can turn it. JunJia does have Stridebreaker now in his inventory, but with that tool being down, BLG is going to continue the siege. JDG's only answer is for Jax to stretch the map elsewhere as he sets his sights on that mid turret.
Not going to be able to hit it as will be Bin and Shun making their way over to the mid lane. And so sights once again turn towards the Dragons. JDG, stealing that one earlier in the game, all of a sudden seems a little bit more important, Cubby. It means that now this next one would be Chemtech Soul Point.
Good shout.
And one of the best champions with Chemtech Soul is going to be Olaf. When you are more effective at lower HP, that Soul
Also
will
good
continue
shout.
to be very valuable.
That's a very good draw. Not to mention the healing and shielding. Enchantress is in the game. Do think that more of that will be in the hands of JDG. Also think it's worth noting, Sion also a very good Chemtech abuser. Given the shields he gets and being low HP for him. But none better than Olaf. So good draw there. JDG, again, we see HongQ now with that Lich Bane. He is still behind Knight on the Mel, but if TF is able to continue to acquire these side lane resources, that passive could help him slingshot back into this game a little bit, and does have his damage items. I mean, it's RFC from here on out with utility is what I expect, so HongQ, I think he's just here to kind of manage waves, manage the game, but a lot of the focus needs to be on JunJia with this unique Olaf jungle pick. Again, Enchantresses really finding their way into being much more meta with that role getting more gold through the quest, more gold through the game. In this season, those items can be very impactful as Vampire has now picked up MAzel's to help out his team.
Saw how good On was using its sides. I want to get in on that fun as well. Be able to deny a couple of things. I mean, most notably, probably the charm coming through from On's Encore, potentially onto a HongQ or Gala. Gala also has the cleanse, so a lot of tools to kind of escape those abilities as we are reaching the point of this dragon about to spawn. 30 seconds away, and right now BLG, still in the gold lead, have control in terms of the vision and positioning.
And you know what? JDG have the option to not play this one if they want to. I think they can use Jax and TF to really stretch the map. That said, I did just see Xiaoxu complete the base, so the map likely to not be stretched, and JunJia already on his way out as BLG have complete control over this bot side river.
It's a luxury that you get by stealing one of those dragons away earlier. Get the opportunity to maybe opt only for a fight you really want. But looks like BLG want to fight instead of going for the Drake, but in goes JunJia once again. He's empowered. He shuts down Viper, but he will go down in a trade. Teleport has come in, and Xiaoxu now arriving to the fight. Shun is exhausted, but it will be Knight going golden, and Xiaoxu jumps on top of him, taking the Mel down. Double counter-strike, and Xiaoxu carries JDG to a team fight win in the bottom lane. Only Bin remains, but he won't for much longer. A double kill in for Gala, and it's a clean ace for JD.
JunJia's Olaf is breaking this game, and BLG do not have an answer to it. I think Knight might have misclicked the Seekers, too, on that one, which helped him fall, but watch JunJia the entire fight dictated off of him. Yes, Bin's going for the angle. HongQ does a great job catching this ult, but the story is with JunJia. The arrow helps him as it does stun up. The polymorph actually goes down on the Shun, and he nearly takes down all of them. Now I'm watching Knight, because I think... Oh, no, he Seekers the gold card. All right, I didn't see that one in the Observer. Nice Seekers for him, but still, all of his tools were burned early as JDG were just able to chase, and this is kind of where I was surprised at how much JDG was forcing earlier in the game, because as this game goes on, the scaling they have is great. You can see what Olaf has been able to do now with a Lulu in his back pocket, the tools that he has on his team to really empower this Olaf in the draft. And yes, JunJia was the first to go down to the fight, but he was the one that completely dictated the fight in JDG's favor, as they now have the soul point in their hands and the gold lead back in their hands as well.
See JDG fans starting to feel pretty excited. They have not been to an international since 2023, since Faker crucially ulted Viper to his doom, or sorry, Ruler to his doom, and basically denying any hopes of the LPL at that event. JDG, it's been a long time since then. They have a whole new roster, but they are feeling good now. Gold lead back to even after being down over 6,000.
And again, I mean, this is where I know Sion was what was blinded, and I was kind of asking for Trundle. I'm down with the Olaf. I think JunJia's convinced me with the help of this Lulu, too. As this LPL gold graph, I mean, part of it's fed into the what JDG has drafted. I think that Vampire's itemization even is really meant to help Olaf. Like, MAzel's can help you maybe not burn a Ragnarok. It also, the Ardent can help those axes swing even further and help keep the Ragnarok to continue. throughout these fights, as JunJia, no Sundered Sky, but so far hasn't really been necessary. It's now the Maw completed into the Mel Seraphine, so that magic damage shield could be quite big for himself as he continues to try and make sure those axes are swinging throughout this game.
Big respect for Knight, who definitely has earned it at this point. 6-3 and 3. 3 full items, now the completed hourglass, so we'll have that stasis once again next time a fight rolls around. But the rest of the team needs to step up at this point.
I think that the other hard part for this game is that a lot of BLG's comp, kind of returning from their lens, it focuses on the wombo. Like we were setting up, okay, bin ult into, Mel root, into MF, Seraphine over the top, right? Like this is the wombo that we're dreaming of. Lulu Olaf can really break that. And we have not seen them able to wombo just from the sheer amount of pressure that JunJia's been exerting over the threat of flash wild growth into the backline, right? And Olaf going crazy. And that means that a lot of the damage profile for BLG is missing. Like Mel's damage kind of falls off from here on out. MF is not going to out-damage Ashe Lulu as this game moves forward. I think BLG has missed out on their window to win this game. This game for me is extremely JDG favored from here on out.
Yeah, now it's BLG. You kind of need the perfect storm to go together, because if they don't get all of the cards falling in the right way, JunJia just presses R, runs over the entire game like we have seen in these past few team fights.
I respect the jungle Olaf. I don't throw this card out much, but when I coached my college team, shout out to my jungler, MLBD, a.k.a. Mayama Big D. He was an Olaf enjoyer. We played a lot of Olaf comps, and man, if this pick gets ramping, which I know it's a new age League of Legends, jungle is a little bit more handshake, counter jungling not as much of a thing now, but man, you get ramping on this pick, you can really break the game, break the scaling of the game. And it really feels like that is exactly what JDG have done. As Gala donates that cannon over to HongQ, that means RFC going to be in the inventory on the completed recall here. A little bit more reach for JDG to try and get things done. Also, we haven't really talked about Xiaoxu this game, Graves.
Oh, what a great fight, Bob.
Really good last fight. He has split, has gotten himself a lot of resources. And again, this Jax, luxury items starting to come in. Zanya's, that takes away even more ways for BLG to try and play and wombo their way into JDG.
So now the Dragon going to be the focus, but that might not even happen until Xun goes down. He forced the use of the Unbreakable, and now here goes JunJia again with the Ragnarok. HongQ going very far forward, but it's going to be able to take down Knight. Xiaoxu not able to land a stun with the counter-strike.
That's Dragon.
Nice job by On to stall things out, but JDG have taken down BLG's mid laner, and that should be a free ticket to a Chemtech Soul.
They just have to chill and Dragon. Yes, it could be a contested smite, but it's 5v4 going into Ashe. You can see how oppressive Gala and HongQ can be on this TF, just holding the line. BLG, I don't know if they can fight this.
Gold card on to Bin. He's tanky, but not that tanky. Down to 75% HP. As JDG have 5 seconds until this crucial Dragon Soul spawns.
Yeah, only saving grace for me is that there's no Ragnarok available. So if you can find Olaf, it's a maybe. But that's it for BLG, and it's going to be hard. They're down numbers.
Xun's had a lot of objectives stolen from him. He's going to have to do it again, but no, that just gets bursted down too quickly. Chemtech Soul for JD Gaming. We didn't even think it had enough time for that to be bursted all the way through. HongQ hunting with the gold card. Finds On, but nothing more. As Xun is looking to dash forward, and Knight has respawned and teleported back to the mid lane. In goes Xiaoxu. Counter-strike onto Viper. Not enough to take him down just yet, though, but Gala's looking unlocked. JunJia already picking up one. A second onto Xun. And JD Gaming reigning supreme once again. ECA onto Knight. He flashes away, not going to go down, but it should be enough for JD to go to the Baron Nashor.
I think Bin just took the train out of the country. He tried to TP back in, but all of his friends were gone while he was missing. And JDG, this has been kind of a wild, chaotic game, Grapes, but it feels like off of one dragon fight that they forced and lost, they bought themselves 5 minutes. They had another dragon fight where Olaf took over, and that's really what changed the game. As this dragon fight, JunJia goes in so far up, like Vampire's flashing just to try and wild growth combo with him. It is enough to find Knight, but this isn't even a connected fight for JDG, and it just doesn't even matter for BLG, as BLG looked like they had no idea how to play this one out. As
Viper just steps way too far.
Yeah, I mean, that Sion ult doesn't connect. The other one sent Bin bot, and then he based, and he's TPing back into the middle, and by the time he gets back, he's a non-impact, a non-factor in this fight. His team's already down. and they missed out of the window where they could have fought where JunJia's down Ragnarok. In what was another very good early game for BLG, it gets turned on by JDG. They're looking to close out this game. I think they're going to do so pretty damn easily with a Chemsol Olaf Grapes. And this is going to be a 2-1 JDG lead.
The more it happens, the less we can say it's circumstance, it's coincidence. This is how JD Gaming have been able to win games. They did it against AL. They're now looking to do it against BLG. Comebacks in the late game, outplays into the team fights, scaling, scaling, scaling. Potentially put them up 2-1 in this best of 5. Jun dashes over to try to rejoin his team. Jun just chunks down to about 80%. But we also have Xiaoxu pushing down bottom. The Baron buff still available for the next 105.
Xiaoxu has a Haunting Guise on his Jax. Some nice late tech.
Riftmaker?
Maybe, yeah, maybe Riftmaker into Dusk of Dawn to wrap things up here. Maybe just the damage amp into the Scion. Pretty good. Health stacker.
Oh, knock up on the Gala. Junjia's about half HP. This could be an opportunity for BLG to go in, but the Ragnarok's already been popped, and Junjia will remain invulnerable for now. Charm going to land on it too. Xiaoxu has been targeted. Gala flashing away from the bullet time. The Jax is very low. Oh. Taken down by the Golden Eclipse, and
The
Knight
Ragnarok
has found his moment. Dash forward from Shun, takes Gala down, and now BLG are the ones on the comeback train. Junjia is able to escape for now, but BLG now have a numbers advantage for the next 45 seconds.
Good find by BLG. I think the key to that fight was that JunJia off the Ragnarok had to retreat. Couldn't step forward, didn't have the flash. JDG didn't take that fight on their terms. BLG were able to stall out, like they forced out Ragnarok, then they stalled out the Ragnarok. They waited for it to expire. And it was a really good turn between Viper and Knight. So a little bit of an overextension there by JDG. A good find by BLG. I don't think that's going to shift the expected result of this game. I think they need 3 or 4 more of those fights. But again, if you are at home playing against an Olaf, taking away Ragnarok, waiting that out, that's huge. Because JunJia popped the Ragnarok to catch Bin. That's all he gets out of the value for his Ragnarok. And that kind of opens up them to turn the fight around, especially when Gala walked into a couple things, which that helped a bit.
That's the power of Mel. You can get enough ability stacked up that ulti starts to do a ton of damage. To jump in, take down Gala as well. And so BLG haven't heard that bell just yet. They might have threw their whole lead. They're hoping that JDG is willing to throw it right back to him.
Look at some of the itemization. Okay. Oh, sorry. There's a direct set.
It is protecting us from seeing the items.
Yes. Thank you for making the joke. They want to make grapes. HongQ goes in.
Go on. Yeah, cleanses away from the arrow again, but not going to be able to match the might of JunJia. Already 1 kill for nothing. The Ragnarok still unlocked. And it takes down at least 1 player here. Bin, he goes forward with the ultimate. That was a ill-mattered attempt by Bin on the Scion. He will go down 2 kills for free into the hands of JD Gaming. They're going to look for more. Xiaoxu jumps forward. Another multi-man counter-strike, and Knight is going golden, but waiting for his eventual demise. Viper on the run, but he's not going to be able to run much farther from Xiaoxu, who has carried this game on the Jax. JDG from the brink will come all the way back and will take a 2-1 series lead over Bilibili.
Grapes, of all the setup that we had coming into this series, we'd spent so much time talking about HongQ versus Knight, how this could be a coming out party for Xiaoxu, how the bot lane, we felt that if BLG were to win, Viper on stepping up could be so important. The story of this series has been told in the jungle, as JunJia proving that he was the right call over Shun and his old team. JunJia has been the star of this series, frankly. It was the Jarvan where he was playing a good game, got MVP, was winning the smites, made sure that game was good. Game 2, not very close, but it was off the back of his smites where he kept things closer with the Dragon Steals. Game 3, this Olaf pick, we have not seen a lot. I don't know if we've seen any outside, or it's been less than 5 games for sure, of Jungle Olaf. I've seen it emerge once or twice here, but man, him and Vampire, how they ran that map, very, very impressive, that comeback into BLG. And if you're a BLG fan at home, that you could argue that this was the second game where you had an early game lead that you threw. And it was off a macro play. It was off a not respecting the Olaf, whereas game 1 was not respecting the Soul. This is a bit of a worrying trend for BLG. I think it's one of the reasons why we weren't as excited or not as sold that they were the favorites coming into the day. as where some other places might have had them as favorites. And JDG showing up with, I think, better cohesive play, better cohesive strategies today to help them win out on the day so far.
Yeah, this is fascinating to watch unfold. This is not. I was expecting the series to be close. Not expecting the games necessarily to go this way, as JD Gaming have become
Very
the king
swingy
of comebacks at this point. Down in gold in all 3 games, and able to come back and win 2 of them. And shouting out JunJia there, very important as well. We feel like he was maybe one of the weaker players going into the playoffs.
Yes.
There were talks about him potentially getting replaced in an offseason once the rumors mill started to rumble, but he's proven that he belongs here on this team.
Yeah, and I want to give credit over to JDG too. I think that this Olaf pick, it's really creative, but man, what a happy game for Olaf. If you are Olaf jungle, Olaf is a champion where you really only scale based on the resources that you're given, because it's all about the damage. And you're going to get less resources in the jungle, right? You don't have access to top lane XP, don't have access to as much CS. But what do you have access to? A Lulu Ashe TF bot side? I can't think of a bot side that really makes Olaf happier in a game. Having the point-and-click stuns and being empowered by a Lulu. And then you throw Jax into the mix too. Xiaoxu got counterpick. He was able to stretch the map really well, and he scaled nicely into the matchup against Sion and really nicely into the game. Where BLG's comp, again, I just feel like with MF, Seraphine, Mel, they kind of spike at that 1-2 item mark against what JDG has that game. And they didn't hit it well. I feel like the strategy there for BLG, they narrowed up the map a little bit too fast, and the setups around these objectives just have not been in BLG's favor today, and they didn't have the answer, the solution to really fight the Olaf in the way that was necessary, as JunJia did the most damage on his team out of the jungle on the Olaf, and that's very telling of how the game went.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, makes sense given the impact that he was having in some of those fights, and maybe feels bad a little bit for Knight, who was able to get a big lead once again onto HongQ in the laning phase and not having it result in very much. HongQ seems to at least have his number this season so far, especially once we get towards the later parts of the game. I mean, overall for JDG, very impressive to stay resilient, to remain calm despite all of the circumstances that were not going your way at the start of the game. Remember how Xun barely survived that early initial play in the enemy jungle, was able to get away with a couple of early kills, and we were wrapping this up talking about how BLG were about to be at match point, and the exact opposite ended up happening.
Yeah, I mean, this fight was kind of ugly. Again, we were questioning why they went so hard for this fight. But again, look at all the tools that On burned in that fight. The flash gets the blast cone. On's way too far up here. Love JunJia. Again, the trigger pull, how quickly he recognized that. That's really good from a team, because what that tells me is that they're pre-planning. Like, hey, Seraphine is down flash. We see Seraphine, that's our target. He rips it immediately, especially this. I know that jungle support synergy, I love to talk about it. Usually, I talk about it in terms of walking around the map between waves. I thought some of the jungle support synergy we had within the fights, the in-fight mechanics. Vampire was a very, very good Olaf kit in this game. He was loyal. He was flashing forward when it looked like he didn't need to flash forward to make sure those wild growths connected, hit multiple people. I think people do underrate sometimes on Lulu how strong the knockup and the AoE slow can be with wild growth. Really helps you keep people in range of the Olaf so those axes can keep on swinging. And man, I feel like Tabe just hit Ragnarok personally himself in that celebration as he unleashed there. Jeez. Holy smokes. He knew they turned the game around on that call. And they really did, because there was no looking back after that wonderful fight from JDG.
Yeah, maybe pop the. We gotta check on him. Make sure he's all right. He's got to keep drafting for game 4 and 5 if we get there. JDG looking.
Gotta make sure all the blood vessels are intact.
Yeah, exactly. I think it looks like all of them have been needed so far, because BLG have certainly challenged JD Gaming in all of the games so far, but JDG have been able to prevail a number of times. That's why they're up 2-1 in this series, and BLG all of a sudden have to question how they're playing these late games to result in these leads being given away.
I mean, I want to say comp diff for this one, sincerely. And I think that this is where Sion was really punished on 4. Because playing Sion into this draft where it's Ashe, Lulu, Like, TF does give you an unstoppable, but man, I just think that it's really hard to play Sion into this draft. I think it's really hard to play Mel into this draft, and Mel was 5 picked. I think the Mel logic for me is looking at the draft and saying, like, okay, we lose 3 items plus no matter what the laner would grab, so let's grab someone that's a really strong early power curve. I think Mel did have value, or some value in that game. But hindsight, if I'm BLG, I think looking for a different 4-5 there is probably where I'm thinking, Grapes. I didn't exactly love the approach they had on the 4-5.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit surprised, too, like, blinding the Sion that way. You don't want to pair Sion with TF. You want to play TF with a carry top laner. And I can understand Sion wanting to neutralize that, but TF was already showing, I mean, you could have had a world where you blinded mid, and then you got top as 5 pick instead of 5 picking mid when you already knew that TF was up. That's a real world. I know jungle has some impact on that too, but I think BLG might want that draft back. I don't think that was the most cohesive draft they could have put together, and it showed in the end as JDG. Jungle Olaf, man, that's an oldie but a goodie. It's been fun. I feel like watching LCS. I watched Inspired get into his bag of some old jungle tech. We haven't seen a lot of level 1s with the early portion of the game being shortened with all the timers being moved up. We saw Inspired kind of run LCS in the final, but utilizing level 1s really well out of the jungle and some old tech. Olaf jungle, some real old tech, and seeing JunJia kind of reach deep into the bag there with JDG to find that in draft where I thought it was quite good. Props to them, props to JunJia, who played a wonderful game, got a well-deserved pog as he has 2 in both the JD Gaming's wins tonight. Definitely not something I was expecting before we hop into the games tonight, Graves, but what the games have given us.
Yep, been the X factor so far against BLG. Potential to send his, the former jungler of JD Gaming and Xun down to the lower bracket with 1 more victory. JD Gaming hunting their first international in 2.5 years. Will they get it, or will it be silver scrapes? We'll find out once we return on LPL English.